Welcome to the Free Play Arcade podcast presented to you by Book Club Coffee and their Double Clutch Cold Brew. This is not the greatest opening to the podcast in the world. This is a tribute to it because we've already filmed it. But Double Clutch Cold Brew Coffee, I have it at least 3 times a week.
It's the only reason you're still awake right now.
That's delicious.
Absolutely true.
So we're here, we're following up, we're still trying to work through this massive Kelly Ray arcade purchase.
So many games.
120, 130 games. We haven't even gotten to the parts.
I
We
know.
haven't even talked about so much of it. But right now we're talking about, and we're going to move quick, Street Fighter 2. This was my introduction to Street Fighter 2. This is where I learned the difference between World Warrior, Hyper Fighting, Super Turbo. We inherited World Warrior and a hyper fighting game. Like, we had these 2 cabinets, we had some other CPS2 boards. This is where I learned Super Turbo, but this was actually where I kind of started to experience World Warrior, which was the original Street Fighter 2, right? That
Correct.
is this kind of slower
Introduction to the 8 different characters and not just Ryu and a Ryu skin that was from America.
Yeah, and I guess that's before Chun-Li had a fireball.
Correct.
I can't even understand that. Why is that a real thing? And then Hyper Fighting came out. Everyone loved Hyper Fighting.
Yeah.
That was the staple for a long, long time.
You would love it because Chun-Li not only had a fireball, it would go completely across and through the screen.
Whoa, Super Turbo, it ends.
Correct. Yeah, it dissipates.
Dissipates is the word? Jeez. Now I need to just... never mind. I just like Hyper Fighting. Super Turbo's garbage.
Fair enough.
We're back to it.
When we opened up, we had Hyper Fighting on the floor. This exact Hyper Fighting that we got out of the Kelly Ray deal. It was in a Dynamo Z-back, cut corner, a red Z-back. I mean, this was, for a long time, considered the pinnacle of fighting game cabinets until the Big Blue came out. Which the Big Blue, of course, was dedicated to those CPS2 games like Super Turbo. Mm-hmm. And I guess Super Turbo's kind of taken over. We're 100% on board, obviously. We love
Right.
Super Turbo.
It's got an active community even at 2017, whereas people fondly remember Turbo Champion Edition Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting Capcom.
So the original Hyper Fighting marquee did have the Turbo Champion Hyper Fighting Street Fighter 2 Edition Capcom language. A little bit of a mouthful, but you knew if you were coming out to play it, something intense was about to happen.
It's a great game,
and it was
though.
about to happen really, really fast. But
It is a great game. Imran had a tournament on it in Austin not too long ago that we went to. And
Friend
of
of
course,
Free Play.
Of course, Jesse, another friend of Free Play, won it.
Hyper
Fighting's good, and Hyper Fighting is easily confused with Hyper Anniversary Edition with all the compilation that has me seeing blood red every time I even think about it.
The nice thing about the Hyper Anniversary Edition was it actually had a native free play mode, which works great at Free Play Arcade.
Right. And the good ends there.
Through various different devices and installation techniques, we've been able to kind of get a free play mode on Super Turbo by using not inexpensive components, not and a ton of tech time, but we now have probably the best working free play Super Turbo in the world at Free Play Richardson. Not to mention it's on a Blast City now. It's amazing. We're totally proud of it, and yeah, Super Turbo is the competitive gaming everything. Hyper Fighting is more the thing you find in a laundromat, in a movie theater,
but
and
with
you're
the
so
depth.
excited to find it.
And it does have the depth to sink some time into and to feel like you need to be competitive with it, and just without the 25-year scene of dedicated to just this game and only this game, and any revision that Capcom made is immediately tossed aside and Ultra What, and then back to Super Turbo.
Oh, yeah, could you imagine being Capcom and having you keep releasing what you think is going to be better, and everyone's just like, I just want Super Turbo.
Yeah.
Give me Super Turbo, which they keep getting close. But no, Super Turbo is awesome. Hyper Fighting is probably right up there as the second best Street Fighter 2.
Agreed. I think everybody would agree with you as well.
So we're going to go from good stuff to bad stuff. As part of this lot, and this is still a game we have floating around somewhere, we inherited a Donkey Kong converted Superman. So Superman is just a terrible game. It has been ported to most consoles. Every iteration, every version, bad. I have it on Sega Genesis. I've played it recently. It was the worst thing that I've done, and I played some really bad. I played F-117 Night Fighter Super Hawk or whatever on Genesis. Was the worst game I'd ever played until I played Superman on Sega Genesis.
What if Superman couldn't fly?
Right.
What if he wasn't faster than a speeding bullet?
Yeah, it
what
is.
if he died every 90 seconds?
It is a game that removes all of Superman's powers and makes you just go through a Superman scenario as immortal.
Right.
And it's designed just to take quarters out of people's pockets, and it's not good. None of it's fun. It's brutal. We've never featured on the floor. It has been requested for some reason, but
All games get requested.
that's true. No good reason to put it on yet, ever.
If we're going to have a terrible games month, we can roll it right out there.
So
day
next
one.
up,
We have a
we
few of
had
those.
2 actual Tempests that came in as part of the Kelly Ray lot. We're going to talk about the super rare, ultra cool Tempest cocktail that we got as part of the lot. And this one had been factory restored by one of the original Atari technicians that designed the game. If we had any clue what we were doing at the time, we would have kept this game. We sold it for an obscene amount of money. Obviously, it was perfect. It played perfect. What was really great is I had to go in there and do some minor adjusting, and I felt like I was like a scientist going into like discover something as I tweaked the monitor ever so slightly and tweaked the power ever so slightly and got it playing perfect. This is probably, that is definitely the best Tempest I've ever seen. Not to mention they made probably like 1,200 of these cocktails. This was one of those cocktails, and we had it in mint condition, as tuned, as refurbished by a Tempest creator. We sold it.
Never seen a Tempest cocktail.
It's an interesting. Honestly, it's attractive. It's beautiful. I prefer the Tempest stand up. I think it plays better.
Agreed.
But there's something really cool about the package they put together for that cocktail.
Well, I think that's the case with most cocktails in general. I'm a person who prefers uprights in general, but I think that there's a certain market for the cocktails, and especially if you're playing in a limited space,
Right.
if you're looking for something to put in your living room, if you're looking for something to put into an establishment that you want to have seating and just give someone the opportunity to entertain themselves for a long period of time, the cocktails are great. That being said, I would always play the upright over the cocktail version.
Yeah, I think the only 2 that we've heard that have a mainstream support are the Miss Pac cocktail, which everyone loves, and Tetris. Tetris, it's interesting because we've put all sorts of Tetris out, and none of them have been particularly well played, even though that is a really awesome puzzle game. But the Tetris cocktail, when we have it in the right place on the floor, used to crush. We've kind of moved it off to the side. It hasn't been as busy lately, but I think that Miss Pac and Tetris in cocktail form are like the ideal way to play it, because it really, really captures that 1v1 when you're sitting across from a friend, especially Tetris, right?
Absolutely.
It flips the screen
same
for
time.
each one of y'all, and y'all are both playing. It's, not only is it great coding, it's just a great cocktail experience. So then we get to the Tempest upright that we inherited. Never made it to the floor. It was complete, really close. I think I got the game board working. Never got the monitor to display the screen. Absolutely, in 20 minutes, wherever this game is, I could probably fix it. It's in our warehouses somewhere. I just haven't looked at it because every Tempest I get a chance to buy, I buy. Every 6100 Wells Gardner that I get a chance to buy, which is the Modern Tempest, I buy. So
Am I the only one who cannot think of Tempest without thinking of Night of the Comet?
I don't even know what Night of the Comet is.
That is a terrible 80s zombie movie where the world ends while this woman is playing Tempest in a movie theater.
Nice.
And she is spared because she's playing Tempest while everybody else is outside looking at, I think, Haley's Comet,
Yeah,
which turns everybody into dust and or zombies.
Yeah, zombie invasion from the comet. Yeah,
Right.
now I...
Right, but
now
Tempest
I-
saves her. A stand-up Tempest.
Which is, it looked like it was working well. So never got this one up. Got the next one up. Could probably fix it, but we own 10 Tempests now. And
You're good if the world ends then.
Yeah, that's only
We can all be saved.
that only scratches the surface of our 6100 games with Space Duel, Black Widow, Gravatar. We have, we get sometimes people ask us why we don't have more color vectors, but the truth is we have a ton in the collection. It's just a hard balance to fit. Because those color vectors are not exact. Tempest, you can easily pick up. You can easily
Everyone knows
play.
Tempest.
Right, you're going to have fun. But the others,
Throw Black Widow on the floor.
Really more obscure. I mean, Gravatar, we had a whole monthly competition. Tough to get anyone going on it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and the
2 or
color
3.
vectors in general. I mean, anyone who walks up, they think that it looks really cool, but they don't have the same pull as a lot of our other games. I guess maybe people find them less approachable for some reason, but no matter how cool any of our color vector games are, unless they have a name draw like Tempest
Star Wars,
or Star Wars, they're not going to be played as much.
Right. So the next 3 things on the list, which technically represent 4 items, were the easiest to sell in the entire lot.
I was gonna say, peeking over at your list.
We don't have any of these anymore. 2 vending machines, 2 Wurlitzer jukeboxes. Wurlitzer.
Does it have an arm and a?
Yeah, both of these
Nice.
Wurlitzers were. I
Old
mean,
school.
we had a 2104, if you know, is one of the top ultra collectible. I think it's a 50s or early 60s jukebox. Exact with the arm. It was beautiful.
We know very little about jukebox repair.
Well, that was actually kind of where I learned a little bit. I now have a jukebox in my house that I've had to rebuild from the ground up multiple times, so I have a pretty good idea. It's actually just a simple music making device with an amplifier, but before you ever dig into these things, you have no clue. You just think it's like magic. You have no idea how it works until you try to figure it out. And these all had little minor issues and stuff, and these jukebox collectors, as soon as they hear the word Wurlitzer, as soon as they see 1950s, 1960s, they smell blood. They came in, they were bidding against each other, they were bidding against us. It was, I mean, we were just like, okay, we thought they were worth like $100. Next thing you know, we're selling them for $2,000, $3,000 a pop. And we probably got ripped off, but we'll never know because we were so excited to get that much money for them.
Quick question for my lawyer friend: are jukeboxes in public places legal?
That actually depends on the licensing that came with the 45s that you put in the jukebox.
Okay.
So if you put a 45, which is the small record,
it's the record,
the single-sided song record, if it was an original record that came with the license to play it in a public performance, you own the rights to play it.
Uh-huh.
So most of them did.
Uh-huh.
And then it gets really more complicated when they started having those CD jukeboxes that you
Right.
see, because a lot of the operators were just going to, I don't know, Virgin Megastores and buying CDs and putting
Right.
them in their jukeboxes, and that was technically illegal. And then it all gets weird, and now they have internet jukeboxes. Everything's the internet.
Sure.
Internet.
And then they can just pay a portion to the.
Oh well,
artist.
now it's monthly subscription,
Right.
plus you have to buy. It's a whole mess. Something you'll never see at free play just because it'd be a royal pain to set up. Now a true '80s filled 45 jukebox would be really cool.
Oh, it would be amazing.
But licensing and whatnot and figuring it all out would be impossible. But in this lot, they were easy money makers. We got to get rid of. We felt great about. We learned a little bit about them: vending machines, jukeboxes. It's an interesting world. And then the final game, which is the final game on just about every alphabetical list ever, Zaxxon. We still have it. We used to be on the floor at Richardson. It's on the floor right now in Arlington. I think it's a great game.
It's a weird game, but it's cool.
I need to spend some time with it.
Isometric 3D. You never really know where you are on
Right.
the level. You crash into stuff and you get mad.
The first time playing the space portion, right after you pass that first section, I had no idea how to hit any of those ships ever. It
So
took
weird.
me probably 20 games before I hit my first spaceship on that portion of the game.
No, I remember getting really excited when I would actually hit something where you're shooting at it, and then you get past the first level and then you're in space. Things are even worse. You can't see anything. You have no depth perception.
Right.
Interestingly
A little
enough,
gauge on the side. just
maybe
going
a
up and down.
better isometric weird 3D game, Congo Bongo, that came out shortly thereafter. Same team created as a isometric Donkey Kong kind of. Really, really cool game.
Sitting right over there.
Right over there. It should be to the floor soon. It won't get played as much as we'd hope, but it's really, really cool. And that completes the actual game list
Yeah!
from Kelly Ray's.
That must be
Deal.
all that you got in that. That's the entirety of.
That
everything.
is
Not even close.
That is
Oh,
that
my
is a
bad.
good start into this list. But what we can kind of talk about, we've been doing this for like 62 hours at this point. It's the most extensive, amazing arcade podcast that has ever existed. Because we've been talking about stuff we've bought for hours and hours and hours.
This is just one
I
lot
feel like
by
we
the
can
way.
just cut this into 1,000 different. talk
So,
about this purchase.
If
and
you
then,
watch this entire podcast,
segment-
please send us an email.
Right.
And
segment
let
3
us
of
know.
every podcast is this.
So, this is what was really amazing about that deal. So, Kelly Ray was trying to open an arcade at some point. Mm-hmm. And like we know, and like we knew at the time, to open up an arcade, you need parts. And
Massive
you
quantity.
need thousands and thousands of dollars of parts. So, his lot came with some parts. We were buying everything he had.
Absolutely.
So in addition to 120, 130 games, we got parts. We still haven't even gone through all the parts we've bought, except to make this inventory list. So I'm going to just drill through the PCBs because it's kind of crazy. We had some bad stuff, some multi-cade boards, the 60-in-1s we had 2 of, a 9-in-1, which is actually an old version of the 60-in-1 before they were able to throw on all those other games. Then we had an Alien Syndrome PCB. Still have it. An Altered Beast PCB. Arch Rivals. Not worth anything, but still cool to have. An Arkanoid Revenge of Doe. The second Arkanoid.
Yep.
Very cool. An extra Bump and Jump PCB. Why not a Centipede? 7 Dig Dug boards. I mean, this is how crazy it was. Miscellaneous Defender boards, probably 6 complete sets, just insanity. A Donkey Kong Jr. new old stock board, which we've never put in a game. Who knows what the actual value of that is? Because knock on wood, we'll never find out because eventually we'll just put that in some sort of game. But, I mean, it's never been used. It's factory fresh. Donkey Kong Jr. Unbelievable.
Amazing.
An Urgies, which you'll have to go to Wikipedia to look up. Cool game. And it is pronounced Urgies, I think. I don't know. An Elevator Action, a Final Fight, 5 Galagas, a J-Rock Multi-Williams, one of his original releases. J-Rock has done a ton of stuff in the arcade community. His Multi-Williams is considered the top of the heap. And a lot of people have actually tackled these Multi-Williams because Williams games are the original horizontal arcade games. Like the 16-1, 60 vertical games. They took all the original vertical releases and they crammed it onto one. The Williams games were all horizontal at first. I mean, until they did like Joust 2, which was a terrible failure, but rare game now. But so you'll have the J-Rock, which is, it's not even emulation. He put the original chips on the board, feeds the original code to them. Now, technically the paths they have to go through are a little shorter. The electricity's slightly different, but it's not even considered emulation. Whereas there's the 19-in-1, which we had a few of those here too. That's just your Super Mario Brothers / all Williams game. True emulation. It's like the 16-in-1 version of the Williams. I don't know where this J-Rock Multi-Williams is, but that was rare. And that was an original, unbelievable version. A new old stock Neo Geo 1 slot. The sad story to this is we just tested it out a couple weeks ago. We've owned it for years. It didn't even work.
Nope.
Brand
We kept it
new.
this whole time.
A brand new Neo Geo board. It just didn't work. We haven't tried to diagnose it. We have more, but it didn't even work. Extra Outrun board, an extra Pingo board, an extra Qbert board. These are relatively expensive boards.
Oh, yes.
Now here's an extra Robot Bowl board. This is a black and white game that hasn't existed forever. There are so few copies out there, and then we had an extra board set.
We did not know that, I don't think, at the time when we fixed the other
Oh,
one.
we
But
kind of knew what Robot Bowl was because we had one. A Rolling Thunder, a second run Rolling Thunder board, which is when they took the side art off. And the gameplay was a little bit more stable, a little bit better. I believe, if I remember correctly, this Rolling Thunder board doesn't have sound, but that was only because it needed a sound amp in the second run. We've owned this for years. We've never touched it. This is how insane this deal was. Like, it was so overwhelming that we are still scratching the surface. Even though we had 120, 130 games, even though we have all these boards, we're still getting to it. We had an extra Shinobi, an extra Sky Adventure, 2 extra Space Duels. Both Space Duels still at my law firm sitting on a shelf somewhere. Space Invaders, Space Invaders, Space Invaders, Space Invaders 2.
I think one of those worked.
And we're using it.
It's true.
I mean, we ended up needing it. Some random Street Fighter 2 boards, a Strider, a Tapper board set. And if I remember correctly, and it's not on here, we had like 5 Tron boards. And 2 of them worked. We still have 2. Followed by the 2 Tigers boards, which are similar to Tron. Twin Cobra, WrestleMania, WrestleFest, Tapper boards. I mean, this was insane. I mean, and we had no idea how insane it was because though we were into arcades, though we loved arcade games at the time, we hadn't tried to, build a collection. Mm-hmm. And now we've been doing it for years. We have what's been called the biggest retro arcade collection in the world. And if you include our parts, we definitely have the biggest retro arcade part collection in the world.
Oh, absolutely.
And we far exceed what we got in this lot. But it's
this was a good start to that collection. And honestly, the Kelly Ray deal, it gave us the foundation for the parts that we needed to actually start free play. And without it, I mean, it would have taken us a lot longer to start collecting all of the different pieces that we needed to fix all of the games that we have now collected over the years.
Well, and so we just went through the boards. Like, I just turned the page, and there's more parts. This is artwork. There was an Alien Syndrome control panel overlay, Altered Beast marquee, Arch Rival marquee, and I don't know if you remember, we have a whole stack of these still in storage. We have a stack of glass bezels.
Oh, yes.
Still in storage. And it's gonna, I mean, X-Men side art, Baby Pac-Man art, everything, Berserk, Centipede, Discs of Tron, full set.
Oh, beautiful.
Double Dragon, Frogger, Full Court Frenzy. We don't even own a Full Court Frenzy. There wasn't even a Full Court Frenzy in this lot. Now we have the entire art collection for it. Galaga 3, Gapless, Galaga. I mean, it can just keep going. We have a Journey control panel overlay. We have a Journey that needs a control panel overlay. But it's like, when do you ever find the time to put this much art on? It's just insane. And I mean, we'll have to dig into this on the next podcast because we still have all of the, not just the boards, but the actual parts. Mm-hmm. We've got the rest of the artwork to go through. I mean, this is an insane buy. And then we'll get eventually to the part where we open an arcade. But we're not close there yet. I mean, this is part 5, 6, 30 of this Kelly Ray deal. And this is the Free Play Podcast, and we're going to keep on keeping on until we finish this. Until next time.